everybody, welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
My name is Joe.
In tonight's video, we're going to talk about what it's like when you're on the other side. Once you've gotten through narcissistic abuse, you've left the narcissist, they've discarded you, however it happened, and now you're free. So Joe, can you tell us what the feeling is, what it feels like to not be tied to the narcissist emotionally, physically, financially, any way?
Sure, and I'm still learning and I'm coming out of the dark. But I could tell you with the CPTSD I had, it's like 100-pound weight has been lifted off my chest. It's like I could breathe. It's a feeling that I haven't had for a very, 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 very long time. I forgot what it was like just to be okay. Like just that everything's cool, man. And that kind of feeling, as I said, with the hypervigilance from my trauma, it's heaven. Like I don't want anything, like this is cool the way it is. I don't need to be like happy, joyous, and free and crazy. It's just everything's okay, man. And that makes me like I can function, not just show up physically somewhere for my kids or my job, but like actually my mind, body, and spirit are like synergistic to kind of yoked together finally after many, many, many moons.
You know, it's funny because when Joe and I have done these videos in the past, we were in a long distance relationship, so we weren't together. So I couldn't actually see Joe. But Joe, you probably you don't know this, but while I'm talking to you, I'm looking at you, you look younger. Like there's something about you. You look happy and you don't look, I can see it on your face. Like it's amazing. Can you feel that?
I've had other people tell me that, like, you seem happy or okay, you know. I felt like I aged by like 100 years, and I'm surprised like my hair didn't turn gray overnight, and I've got all these, you know, wrinkles and everything over my face because of what we all go through and what I felt on the inside. But yeah, I just as I said, it's like taking 100-pound weight off of your chest. You could finally breathe, you know.
I get that. I feel, I was just talking to Joe before we did the video. We were talking about what we wanted to discuss and things like that. And I said to him, I know this is impossible, but I almost feel like I've changed on a cellular level. I'm completely different. And Joe had said to me, he's like, oh, geez, your ex, he doesn't know you at all. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I look the same on the outside, but if the way I felt on the inside showed on the outside, I wouldn't look the same in any way. It's amazing how you feel on the other side. So many of us, this happened to both Joe and I, we thought we're never gonna be okay. It just, now I'm permanently ruined, I'm permanently scarred, whatever it is, this is my lot in life. I used to hear about other people who got out, and I thought that is never going to be me. It wasn't even that I had a little bit of hope. I mean, you guys know me on my videos. I'm a pretty optimistic person. I try to have hope in every video. That's not how I was when I was in the entanglement with my ex. I was absolutely hopeless. It literally took a miracle for me to get out. But because that happened, I know it can happen to anybody. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you talked about changing. I had a friend who used to say, I've changed on a molecular level. Yeah, I was at a point, you guys, where the only way out was to die. Like for me to die or the narcissist. I've heard it said before, like in that parasite-host relationship. Usually, either the host or the parasite dies, and that's what happens. But in a way, I think many of us have died a spiritual death. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. I heard that said before, but and I think we do it sometimes, many times in our lifetime. This one, though, yeah, I thought I was pretty much done. I think, coming out of this in my mid-40s, I was just like she had the best of me, and all of my energy was sucked out of me. I was just existing for my kids, and going through the motions, never smiling. The anxiety and the stress, I was waiting to have a heart attack, any day. So many nights you were there, like when I call you up, I was having panic attacks at night. twice a week sometimes. Then even afterwards, it was like a prolonged panic attack. It was just the anxiety and the hypervigilance. Like I was afraid of everything, anything, like everything was a trigger. Like waking up in the morning, it was a freaking trigger. I was just waiting for something to be afraid of. Um, you know, it, we talk a lot about how people get out and all the survivors, but there's no statistics on how many people, victims, have died from narcissistic abuse. When we talk about narcissists, a lot of it is coupled with our own trauma from our past, our codependency. It took me 40 something years to get over my codependency. And sometimes people think, well, they're just getting over narcissistic abuse. But I think for a lot of us, if you dig deeper, our best thinking, our own trauma is what got us with the narcissist to begin with. I learned through this is that I don't know what's good for me a lot of times, that the only way out of this, because I was dealing with the narcissist, who's an enemy, evil, an evil entity of some sort, or entities, demons, my old childhood trauma, my ego, all these things. There was no way to get out of it without some kind of fundamental belief in a God of my understanding, and building upon that relationship, understanding that, like, as I said, my best thinking got me there, knowing how I felt and what I experienced, that I didn't get out of this on my own, and then understanding that life kind of looks out for you many times. You look at nature, and all the things is wonderful, but there's just so many dangers, and it's horrible. Animals struggle from birth to death, and there's something beautiful about it too. And now I see it's not so scary or negative anymore. I was I was living at my bottom, like fully furnished for 20 years, married to this narcissist. When I thought about it, like, I believe that if you're with a narcissist, if you're getting out, you face your worst fears, whatever they are, things that you didn't even know you were afraid of. You face that worst fear. After getting out of it, it's like, what's there to be scared of? Really.
Yeah, you said that to me so many times. Like, what could really be worse than that? And I don't even want to know what could be worse than that. But yeah, Joe and I both. Well, we actually had different experiences, but we both went through the recovery process at the same time. For the majority of it, we didn't know each other, but at the tail end, we've been blessed to be able to go through it together. And we really want to kind of talk about that, what has happened for both of us, because we've gone through very differently. Before we did the video, we were talking about things that you recover from, and Joe was talking about codependence and how that's such a huge thing. And both of us had suffered from codependence. For me, it was a little bit different because my codependence, I dealt with that when I was still with my ex. I've mentioned this before. I know this sounds like, for some people, you're probably thinking that's ridiculous, but this is really what happened to me. I was delivered from codependence instantaneously one day in April of 2016. I didn't know it at the time, but something happened and it changed me immediately and significantly in that moment. So that, Joe and I went out to dinner a little while ago, and we were talking about this. That moment when I stopped being codependent, that basically destroyed my ex. And I realized at one point later that, to my horror, that I felt so weak in the entanglement. I felt like he was the strong one. I actually completely by myself held that entanglement together. The whole marriage was me. I mean, really, after I got delivered from codependence and I did not give him the supply that he needed, he collapsed in an absolutely spectacular fashion. It was unbelievable. So I did a lot of my growth, becoming a different person, changing on that cellular or molecular level when I was still in the entanglement. Because by the time my marriage ended, I was so free. It was the most fantastic thing in the world. It was the most fantastic. I just felt so good immediately. I didn't go through this prolonged agony after it ended. It was during the entanglement that happened. For Joe, it was after. So it seems like he had so, he went through so much that I didn't. But I've come to realize it's really because I did it earlier. So, Joe, you want to talk a little bit about, because you've already told us how you feel now. Tell us how it was from when she first left, when you first kicked her out, to when you started feeling better. What did you go through?
Well, it was when I had kicked her out. Like what had happened was we filed for, I think it's called a disillusionment, where she wanted there was a side agreement where we were going to get divorced. I was going to have custody of the kids, and we did that. And without getting into too much specifics, there was a set amount of money that she had wanted, which was a hell of a lot better what she could have gotten. And my ex has antisocial personality disorder and is a heroin addict. So had she gotten more, that money would have been wasted, So I jumped on it. It was every dime that I had left after she had stolen $10,000 out of my account in my car, and left me with the kids and her mother. She reneged on that. So she was gone, and she demanded, like, this is what she wanted. I gave it to her. It was signed and notarized by a lawyer. Everything was good to go. Then she had the lawyer withdraw and reneged. And that was probably about in June or July of last year. And it sent me on a tailspin because I have 2 kids, 2 cats, a dog, her mother living with me. And I started to like really tailspin out of control. I had to hire a lawyer with money I didn't have. It's still, we're going through it right now. Hopefully in April, you guys keep me in your prayers, please. Um, it's been a struggle, you guys. It has for a long time. It took every bit of patience and tolerance. You see, the narcissist was gone, and I remember asking myself a question like, well, then why are you so upset and miserable? Like, if the narcissist, if she was the problem, and she's no longer in your life, so you don't have the problem, why do you still feel this way? And it made me dig in deeper. I had my own childhood trauma that I went through, pretty severe, and I became an alcoholic and a drug addict. Just too much, too often was the drugs and the alcohol. And I went through recovery. I got sober when I was 25 years old. So she had been gone for about, God, a year and about 18 months. Like I was going through hell, like digging deep, asking myself questions. Like trying to forgive myself for ignoring all the red flags, and it was hell, man. The patience, I didn't. The only thing I could tell you is like I got on the road to recovery. It began not the full recovery, like complete abstinence from the narcissist, but while I was still with her, my soul, my compass, like started researching her symptoms. I thought she was just a drug addict, but she's not. There was like those were just the symptoms. The root cause was her personality disorder. When I began to research that, I found out about NPD. I was on the road to recovery. Like I had it, some kind of part of the problem was that it was her definitely. Um, and then I started building my relationship with God. And all I could say was, it wasn't pretty, man, but I just figured out a way to survive. I didn't wait, like I had to wait, you know what I mean? But I just didn't just do nothing. Like I forced myself sometimes just to get out of bed and go to work or take a shower. I forced myself to go for a walk, even though I didn't want to. Like I was so pissed off at myself, I used that against me. Like, so I hated myself for what I did, like a lot of my children to go through, and I didn't like myself. And I thought, and instead of doing drugs or drinking, I was like, well, why don't you go like run 10 miles and puke? And like, if you're going to hurt yourself, like do it someone, as crazy as it sounds, but I did that. And sometimes I just showed up and went through the motions. But at some point in time, you guys, like when God says that you're ready, you're ready. I really did want to take my life. There were so many things, but my kids kept me alive to give me a reason. Um, but it happened, and God, I still haven't. I haven't. been here long enough to really, really appreciate, because I still got things to look forward to. Um, but just no, the roller coaster, the dips and the hills start to kind of even out into more of a like little hills and like more of a coast, and it's just the best feeling in the world. I'm just going with it right now. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I saw Joe during a lot of this, not all of it, but during a lot of it. And he really, really had a rough time. It was difficult to watch. It was painful to watch, actually, especially because I felt, in some ways I felt guilty because I was doing so much better, and then to see him suffer like that, it was bad. But he's so much better now, and like you said, like when you're ready, you're ready. This is all Joe and I, we're Christian and we believe that strongly that you cannot be free from narcissistic abuse
I
without
couldn't.
God. No,
No,
neither could
I
I.
don't know about anybody
No.
else, but I know for me, like as I said, my best thinking got me. Not so much that I know a lot of people are tricked by the narcissist. For me, in my experience, there was red flags going off all over the place for the last 20 years. The first damn week, why the hell I decided to stay? I mean, I'd ask for another video, but yeah, like I think Einstein said, like, the same conscious mind that got you into the problem cannot be the same conscious mind that gets you out. Whether you want to call it your God conscious, the other 98% of your brain that you don't use, or God, or love, or energy. That for me, I call God to simplify it, but he definitely saved my ass. And I wanted to recover overnight. I'm all about instant gratification. I'm a recovered addict. I drank because it was instant gratification. Um, but I don't know, as I said before, like what's good for me sometimes. And during this patience, it was tribulation, it was character building, it was molding. And you mentioned it before, like it's like a baby being born and going through the birth canal and being pushed and pulled and prodded. It's like the hottest fires forge the strongest blades. And like you and I, or our group on YouTube that we do, like iron sharpens iron. Like you have to you come out a warrior, and you come out with respect for yourself. I faced my greatest fears. I know I didn't do it alone. I give all of it, to Jesus. And that's just for me, but very, very dark, evil, demonic activity underneath it all, and it's psychological, it's all kinds of, it's just too big for me to try to win in single-handed combat.
Oh God, yeah, exactly. That's what I believe, that 100% that it's demonic. It's not human. Joe and I, like I say, we were out to dinner a little while ago, and we were talking about how you could even tell other people about this. It sounds like, I said to Joe, I'm like, if you didn't know a narcissist, if you hadn't gone through this, and I was telling you about things that had happened when I was with my ex, would you think I was lying, exaggerating? And he said, I don't think I'd believe that it was as bad as you say. It's incredible. Like, there aren't words truly for me to get across, but you guys know, anyone who's been with a narcissist. And so the recovery from that is brutal. It really is. It's just, I don't know. Like for me, it was during those last few years of the entanglement. My ex, I was witnessing him spiral out of control. There was incident after incident after incident. I had to call the police. He tried to get me arrested. Child Protective Services were involved. He was committed to a mental hospital. I mean, it was literally one thing after the other. And I, at that time, like Joe was saying, like I was being forged into a new person. And then when it was time, what I thought really was a horrendous day, when my ex literally tried to get me arrested, and I admitted to the police that I pulled his arm. Technically, the police told me that's domestic violence. I should have been arrested. They said the only reason that they didn't arrest me was because they didn't want to leave my kids with my ex. That's it. But I believe even that was God saving me, because it was that night. That's what ended it. At that point, Joe had his moment. I couldn't have him in my life anymore, but I was kind of ready at that point, and I moved forward, and now I'm where I am now, and I'm happy now.
Yeah, that's why I said, like, recovery doesn't necessarily start with no contact. Like God's been working in your life the whole entire time. I think for me, in my experience, there's a reason why I met the narcissist, and a lot of it had to do with to face the inner pain and childhood trauma that I had in my past. But like I began to research narcissism while I was still with her. I was scared. I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. But God, the divine intervention, they'll set the wheels in motion. Is what you do once you go. I call it complete abstinence. I think of like narcissism and my quote unquote relationship with the narcissist like a drug. It affected my serotonin levels chemically, everything. That complete abstinence, the no contact, what you do from that point forward, like you think you're in pain when you're with them. But for me, I was in a lot more pain. I was going through withdrawal from that and like facing my own issues that I had to begin with. That's where like it's another stage in the recovery process is when the no contact is there. It's so important. It seems like, you know, I was doing shadow work, looking deep inside myself, building a relationship with God, and it's like the pain would not go away, but the whole time I was like God was working in my life. The patience builds perseverance and endurance, and it's what you do once you go no contact is vital. And I'm not going to lie to people. For me, it didn't happen overnight. Some people it does. God bless them. I love them for that. Like I wish I could. It's just it wasn't that way. But you know, when you take something, when you want to break a habit and you take something and you give it up, it's a good idea to substitute it with something else. So when the narcissist was out of my life, I substituted that quote unquote relationship with a real relationship with God and myself, like the little Joe, the little kid that was 3 or 4 years old that was abused, and it just blossomed from there, and the obsession and the anger and all that is I was too fascinated by the infinite like possibility of growth with this new relationship that it kind of went on the back burner. And sure, it will pop up from time to time, but it's from the point of no contact where you really got to start doing the work.
You know, you said something a few minutes ago that made me think of something that happened at work today. So I was at work and something was going slow. I was at the cash register and it was going slow, but it really wasn't. And I said to the guy that I was helping, I was like, I'm like, you know what? This just takes a couple seconds. I'm like, but it seems like an eternity. And so he's like, oh yeah, it's because we're so used to, you know, things happening so quickly. And then when he left, he started walking away, and then he turned back to me and he's like, you know, patience is a virtue, isn't it? And when he said that, it struck me. I felt like God had sent me that message. Like I really did, you know, because it was just, he left, then turned around and came back to tell me that. And it's true, you know, and it's hard to feel patient when you're in pain. You want it over right away. Like if you're not feeling well, you want to be better right away. And talking about withdrawal, I mean, if you were really a drug addict and you went through withdrawal, that's probably the quickest way. It doesn't mean it's the best or easiest, but it's the quickest way to get to recovery.
It is. There's a saying that a lot of people in recovery say is the only way through it is through it. You know, and there's another saying that we say is let go or get dragged. You know, so I took those tools that I used in recovery and used it in my recovery from not only narcissistic abuse, but from I was codependent before I met the narcissist. I had some unconscious issues myself and self-validate. You want to talk about like saying all this stuff about a narcissist? Like I'm no narcissist. I have all the empathy in the world I need. My friends know that, and my kids, but you know, self-validation and like looking for the narcissist for approval, or the narcissist was just being a narcissist, but the narcissist wasn't doing what Joe wanted her to do. And when she didn't, then I got all resentful and sad. Well, you know, I had some control issues too I had to look at. But it was through that I started to really get an understanding of why it was that I got entangled with this thing to begin with, you know, and how special I am, because out of all the people in the universe, like out of all the so much better, more wholesome and moral people, that like God found it like that he wanted to come down and save me. And I know that. That's what I call it, a spiritual experience. is because the person that experienced it knows themselves well enough that it wasn't me, that did this. So it gives me a sense of self-worth again. And my self-worth, my self-confidence all stem from that very fact that, like, it's not just a God up in the sky or in some heaven or whatever. It's a very active, involved God that knows every single hair on your head. That, like, that's how important we all are to him. It just, unfortunately, pain was a catalyst. And ironically, I was hopeless. And through that hopelessness, I had to reach out and find hope. And for me, it was like, believing became knowing and seeking became finding, you know?
A minute ago you were saying some quotes, and it made me think of another quote, and it was, if you're walking through hell, keep going. Don't stop. If you're in the middle of something horrible, don't decide to just stay here, because, then you're going to stay in your worst possible pain. You need to move forward, right?
I read a book one time. It's called Breathing Underwater. It was a really cool book. And this guy, the author, was talking about, like, if you were up on a bridge that overlooked like a little river, about 10-foot high bridge, and you're on fire, you're not going to stop and think to yourself, how the hell did I catch on fire? You're going to jump in the damn water. You know what I mean? Ask questions later.
Yeah.
But, it was through action. Like, I had to act my way into better thinking. Like, I tried to fix my thinking. But I didn't realize that my thinking was the problem. My thinking is what got me entangled with the narcissist. It wasn't just all the narcissists. I'm no victim.
Yeah, but you, one thing about you that I noticed when you said, like, you're thinking, you were always, even at the worst of it, when I saw you in a really bad state, you would say to me even then, you know what, I'm trying. I'm still going through it. I'm trying. Like, you never gave up. Was there a time that you gave up? I never saw you give up.
There was a million times that I wanted to, and I give the credit to God. You guys, like, here's the bottom line. I was too chicken shit to pull the trigger. I didn't want to live, and I didn't want to die. My mother, she took her life. She was a narcissist and an alcoholic, and she took her life. And I remember the incident. I'll tell you the story maybe next week or a couple weeks from now, but I'm not brave. Like, on my own, I'm very scared and very feeble and very weak. I just didn't have, I don't know if it's the right word, I didn't have the balls to pull the trigger. You know what I mean? Thank God I didn't. People that do that, and I don't justify it, but that kind of pain, like, I get that kind of pain where there's the gun on the table. My children, like, I wanted to make sure that they were okay. I knew I was the only chance that they had. Their mother was a heroin addict and had left, 2 years ago. They definitely helped me have a reason to live, but it sucked though, because I didn't count. I didn't matter. I was just doing it for them. And then when they were old enough, I was just going to go find some cave and go in and die somewhere,
Yeah, when I first met you, you had a very different view on life. Tell us, like, what about now? Like, for people that are going through it, what would you say to them? People that are, I guess, let me clarify that a little bit more. People that are going through it and don't believe that they're going to be able to make it through, that don't think it's worth it, that think, yeah, maybe other people can get through it, but that's not going to happen to me. What would you say to them?
Well, the point is, like, why I told my story before is, like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. Like, my father left when I was about 6 or 7 with me and my brother and my alcoholic mother, who told me she wished I was never born, and I was the reason why my father left, and she took her life. I became a drug addict. I was homeless. I've been in jail. Like, all these things happened to me. I got sober. In my recovery is where I met the narcissist, who I thought was as serious as I was about sobriety and living a new way of life, and she was there just to find another victim, And then she got pregnant, and I had my son, and I got these codependent issues from my childhood where I had to stay with her because I didn't want to abandon my son the way my father left me. And God bless him. I made peace with that. I understand why he did. And I got my mom too. God bless them both. They did the best they could. But earlier in the video, I mentioned, like, there's something far beyond psychology. Like, when I briefly touched on evil forces and stuff, that lie, like that part that says I'm different, you're not terminally unique. Like there's hundreds of thousands of survivors. It's it's part of what you got to go through. It's the patience of like it's molding your character. It's like you have to force yourself to want to live. Like I was just sick and tired of myself. Like I looked at the bottle of bleach in my garage, wanting to drink it. I mean, I looked at it. I was there. Like it's just you got to find a way to keep breathing. And I promise you, if you're trying to build a relationship with your God, He will never, ever in a million years let you down. And when you come out of that, when He says you're ready, like sometimes quickly, like it happened for you, and sometimes it's more of a gradual thing. I wake up now and I want to live for myself, and that's huge. And I'm still, I'm still recovering, trying to get on my 4:30 in the morning thing and training and this and that. And but yeah, there's a life out there that we haven't even scratched the surface of. And I remember telling myself, there's got to be a better way. Like, if I'm not going to pull the trigger, that means I got to live. I don't want to, like, I'm not so sick or unconscious where like, unconsciously, I want to wallow in this because this is all I know. I'm comfortable. I'm afraid to, I wanted to change. I was desperate to do anything to do that. And if you're building your relationship with God, then He'll do it for you. You just gotta allow yourself to be put through the fire, because it's not like, for the people that it doesn't happen overnight. It ain't fun, but my God, like when you come out and you look at yourself in the mirror, knowing what you defeated with God, like it was evil.
Oh, absolutely. I believe it's spiritual warfare. It's so bad. I just can't fathom it being anything other than, I really can't. But the thing, just to kind of piggyback on what Joe said, if you're going through it, you have to go through it. Like you're already there. Like you're already miserable. There's hope for, and it's, I used to not like the word hope because I used to think, well, hope that's like chance. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow, but it might rain tomorrow. It's different, the hope I'm talking about. It's hope that you're going to get through it. That there is something better.
Yeah, if you're on the other, if you're in the middle of the journey, like you're there, like you are halfway. Like I promise you, but if you're doing something, if you're building a relationship with God, if you're doing the inner work to say, why did I tolerate that? Like what in me, I was 26 years old when I met this thing, and I chose to allow myself to be abused for 20 years. I mean, all off of like childhood trauma, and I had to look at, okay, the narcissist is a narcissist. No shit. What about me? I had to look at the bad things in me.
Look, I just gotta say, for those of you, and I have seen Joe go through it. Never in my life have I seen somebody in such pain, and I spoke to Joe ahead of time, asking him if it was right if I said this, because it's a personal thing. He's been through pain, like pain. With that said, when he says, if I can get through it, anyone can, he's being real there. I also have been through a lot of pain, not like Joe, but I've been through pain too. And both of us can tell you, if we can get through it, I believed, there was no hope. I can't get out. I'm stuck. For me, it was purely financial, but that was very real. Oh my God, like I can never get out. I'm here forever. This is my life. I live in hell now. There was an acceptance of it, and God pulled me out. That's that is the reason I know it's a spiritual warfare issue. Same with Joe. This happened to us. God is not going to let you down. He will not. He is real. Joe and I have experienced him. So I'm not telling you, I think God is real, or I think this can happen. I know it.
Yeah, we're not blowing smoke up your ass. We say we're Christian, and I give my credit to Jesus. I'm a different kind of Christian, I guess. But yeah, we're real, man. I mean, that's why Sharon started offering coaching sessions. Like Sharon and I would stay on the phone since March of last year. We talked to each other every night after I put the kids to bed and she put her kids to bed and all the animals were asleep. And we would just kind of, when I felt she was there to cheer me on, and when she was struggling, sometimes it takes like just a little one-on-one work, like just to kind of get a different perspective. And a simple shift in perspective could give you, you just need a little bit of momentum, just a little bit. It's like like rolling a snowball down a hill, a little bit of momentum, and then you kind of get back up on your feet.
And I'll tell you this too, you never know what's going to happen. You never know. Last year on March 25th, I was living my life. I was a single mom. I was dealing with the, issues with my ex. I was dealing with that every day. I had no idea that the next day something incredible was going to happen to me. That's the first day that Joe and I spoke, and it changed both our lives. I had no idea, March 25th. If I had given up that day, who knows what tomorrow would be. That's like it for all of us. You don't know. You can never give up, because at any moment, when God says it's time, it's time.
Yeah, I want to tell you a story. When the night my mom took her life, she was a brilliant lady. She was a narcissist, but she had gotten laid off of work because of the economy, whatever. She was a CPA accountant, and she thought because of her age and her medical condition that no employer would hire her. And that, coupled with her drinking and popping pills and her personality disorder, she took her own life. I slept over my old house that night when she did that, just because that's where I grew up, And the next day, this was during the days, the younger people don't know this, but we used to have these things called answering machines, and it was like 6 messages, and they were all like from employers looking to have an interview. And I remember thinking, like, consciously, like, just, I don't know why, but it was just like, don't ever give up before the miracle happens. Like, it's thank God, like, doing that, what my mother did, is an option, because once it's done, and it's like, I'm gonna die anyways, so why not just like live this life out and see what comes to pass on it, and then go from there. But yeah, I remember that it happened. So I remember, don't quit until a miracle happens.
That's a great way to end the video, and it's true. Everybody, truly, really, Joe and I, we speak to you from things that have really happened. This is our real life, and we got through it, and it took some time, but we got through it. We're on the other side against what other people would consider insurmountable odds, and we did it with God's help. It's like, it can be like that for all of you. Just keep going every day. Keep going, because it will end. When you're in the worst of everything, you never think it's going to end. I get migraines, and I always think every time, oh my God, like, this is a permanent migraine now. I'm always going to have this migraine. Like, you think that when you're in the midst of it, it's never going to get better. Like if you're pregnant, oh my God, I'm never going to have this baby. I'm pregnant forever. The baby will come. Your freedom will come. Your turn will come.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Joe and I really appreciate it. And I will be back with you on Wednesday. And Joe hopefully will be back on Monday. He's doing a little bit better, so we can have our weekly meetings again.
Yes.
So I will say goodbye to all of you. I'll see you on Wednesday. And I guess that's it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.